So when I was a kid, in and out of the hospital, you know, I was a little guy. I was 4 or 5 years old in there. And, you know, there's a lot of pain involved. I was constantly dealing with being poked and prodded and all kind of shit. And, you know, at the time, it was like the worst thing. Because when you're a kid, you know, all that shit's scary when you're a kid, and it's painful, and it makes it worse. And so, you know, the whole time I'm constantly trying to figure out how I can get out of it, you know. And so I used to fight the nurses and the doctors, and they would try to give me shots and stuff, and I would just fucking squirm and try to kick and get out of there, you know, like. And then I realized after about a year of that, that I had to come up with a new solution. So, you know, one time I was getting this big, it's called a bone marrow transplant, where they take this big needle and they jab it in my fucking back in the fetal position. And, you know, the doctor had told me, you know, don't worry, you know, it's going to be real quick. It's going to hurt a little bit. You'll be all right. And I remember the first time he said he was going to do it, he was like, we're going to go on 3. So he counted 1, then boom, he went. And that was excruciating pain, you know, right into my spine, you know. And after that, I never trusted a fucking doctor. And to this day, I still don't trust doctors, like to this fucking day. But nevertheless, I had to do that every so many months. I had to do one of those. They made me do one of those every so many months. And so I would fight the nurses and everything. And I eventually got to a point where I was like, I got to figure out a better way. So I had to mentally prepare myself to handle this so I wouldn't freak out. And at this point, I'm like 5 years old, you know. And I remember I told them to grab a mirror so I could see my back, because I didn't trust the doctor when he said he was going to go. So I knew that when the pain was coming, I could be ready, you know. And I remember they held that mirror up, and the nurses were holding me down, all ready for me to squirm and get crazy, you know. And when it was time, I was sitting there looking, saw, and I didn't flinch, I didn't wince, I didn't make a sound. And they were so surprised. But then right there in that moment, as relieved as they were, I knew that now my mind is in control of the pain. So no matter how much pain came, that I chose to endure it. And that was a life lesson right there. And it's funny because anyone that goes through traumatic shit when they're a kid, I've learned that later on, as much as they try to get away from those things, sometimes they come back to it and they put themselves in a position of control as a way to regain a sense of themselves. Like you'll hear sometimes that, like, you know, these girls that were, you know, molested as children or whatnot, you know, later on will get, you know, into some type of, you know, sex work or, you know, prostitution or stripping, or they sell their body, that they're choosing to do it on their terms. And like, you look at the guy that got beat up a lot when he was a kid, you know, and he was fighting all the time. Well, then that dude ends up going and fighting in the fucking UFC and being a fucking badass. It's like, it's crazy how the things that you do when you're younger, and it's like, and for me, bodybuilding is controlled pain. You know, that is how you grow muscle. No pain, no gain. It's a real fucking thing. So it's no coincidence, you know, that these things are that way. I just sit here and think about it and think it was a blessing. All that was a blessing. As hard as it was, it made me stronger, it made me better, maybe made me able to do things that everybody can do. So whatever you're going through, just know there's a silver lining, and endure and grow. And one day you'll be able to look back and realize that it'll make you strong in a way maybe you never would have saw possible.